Hi there, everybody. I always wanted to play Fantasian. Even when it was first announced back on Apple Arcade, I was like, whoa, this thing's gonna be like Final Fantasy in all but name. It's gonna be like going back to playing Blue Dragon and Lost Odyssey. You know, those absolutely fantastic but criminally underrated RPGs that are out there that are pretty much Final Fantasy, but they just don't get that Final Fantasy credit. And this game, though, is kind of like that, except that here, the original director and creator of Final Fantasy himself is behind this gem. And now that it's finally left Apple Arcade, it is available now to play on consoles and PC, so just about everybody has access to it. And today I'm going to be telling you all about my experience with it, and I do think that is worth a sub, as I do try my hardest at 100,000 subscribers. And with your help, your like, and your sub, I just know that I can get there. So thank you so much, I really do highly appreciate it. So now with all that out of the way, let me dive deep into this enhanced port, Fantasian Neo Dimension. First things first, I do just want to go over what has changed between the original Fantasian and then the new Neo Dimension. And the number one biggest change, besides, actually having controller support, has got to be the difficulty. There is now a normal mode as well as a hard mode, with the hard mode actually being the original difficulty level from the original game. You can also choose between different music for the battles. I mean, you can obviously opt for the original music, or you can have it play random songs from Final Fantasies 1 through 14, which I really just love, and that is what I chose because, the variety is the spice of life after all. And, I also don't hate myself, so I definitely went with the normal mode. In addition to that, there is full voice acting in both English or Japanese for all of the characters, and it's pretty good too. Since, as I said before, this is essentially a traditional Final Fantasy game, then this will be a must-buy for any gamers who are out there missing that old-school charm, those old-school battles, that old-school storytelling and exploration. Because, I don't know about y'all, but I am not finding that charm in the current Final Fantasies. That being said, though, I am glad that they are providing a variety of game experiences for everybody to enjoy. But this here is definitely aimed at more old-school gamers, with random encounters, no little indicators telling you where to go or who to talk to. It is not one of those follow the little map marker RPGs that we see nowadays. That being said, there is a larger map that you can look at in the menu, and there will be a little blurb saying, where to go or what to do. But there still will not be a marker explicitly pointing out on the map, hey, go here, moron. You actually have to use your brain. Speaking of the map, what sets this apart from other games is that every single area is based on a real-life, handmade diorama that the designers took photographs of, and then you traverse them in real time. You'll be able to enter all of the various houses, plunder and loot people's belongings, find treasure chests, and even locked chests, just like in a traditional Dragon Quest game. The story's pretty decent. You play as the amnesiac hero Leo, who of course has to recover his lost memories, but along the way you meet up with an equally mysterious magical girl, as well as a princess with a sordid past. And together they venture forth to confront the evil god Vam, and uncover the mysteries of the magical artifacts, as well as the bacteria spreading across the planet itself. The story as a whole is pretty basic and very easy to follow, so this is kind of like a perfect veg out, pick up and play sort of game. Now, let me talk about the battle system, because while it is turn-based and the encounters are random, that's really all it has common with the traditional Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest games, because this is definitely doing its own thing during these battles. And that's good, because this is a ton of fun. All your different party members have their typical fight, item, defend, magic commands, but battling in Fantasian is 100% positioning based, much more so than pretty much any other turn-based game that I've ever played. That's because all of your attacks hit in various lines or different ranges. Most of Leo's attacks hit in straight lines, meaning that he's able to target a straight line in front of him, hitting all the enemies and kind of bowling them over. However, if an enemy guards, then the other enemies behind him will not be struck in that line. Kina, the magical girl, instead kind of hits in an arc, because you're able to pull back the controller like you're aiming a bow and arrow, and you can arc her attacks in kind of a semicircular route, bypassing those guarding enemies in the front and hitting the annoying casters from behind. Our little princess can hit enemies in a large circle, really clearing out the field. And of course, you'll be getting other characters who can hit all sorts of different ways too. Now, All of this is fine and dandy in normal random encounters, but when you're only fighting like 3 or 4 enemies, you don't really need to deal with all this like range of choice, and that is where the dimension comes into play. I love this thing. Basically, it allows you to just kind of like run around and you no longer get into any random encounters, so that's gone. Instead, they'll be sent off to the dimension, which can hold 30 monsters. Please note, that is 30 monsters, not 30 encounters. There's a difference. And it can fill up quite quickly, and whenever it does, it'll overflow, and you'll be forced to fight all the monsters in the dimension at once. And that is where the real fun begins, because you're going to be up against a whole shit ton of monsters who will just be wailing on you, but at the same time, you'll be screen clearing and hitting tons of enemies at one time with all your various attacks. Not only that, but power-ups appear during these battles, and if your attacks hit those, then you receive the bonuses like attack up, stat buffs, regeneration, things like that. And it just becomes incredibly strategic. And you're really able to plan out your battles, because at the bottom of the screen, there's also a turn order gauge, very similar to the kind that you would find over in Final Fantasy X. Of course, all these different skills that you use do take up NP, so that will definitely become a big thing that you have to manage. And you can't just send all the enemies off to the dimension either. Sometimes there will be scripted battles, or you'll be in like a particularly dangerous area where the dimension just doesn't work. Or also, the first time that you do fight and encounter a monster, it'll not be sent off to the dimension either. So normal regular battles are still incorporated into the game, as well as the large-scale all-out brawls of the dimension. You can also keep track of how much HP enemies have left as their name goes from white to yellow to red. Not only that, but you do also receive full HP and MP restoration upon leveling up, which is great because this game is old school and save points do not double as heal points. You'll need to use a healing stone, which is essentially a tent, at each save point. And no, you can't save anywhere, although there is an autosave system. Earlier in the review, I mentioned another game by Sakaguchi, Lost Odyssey, and anyone who's ever played that game knows about the memories. Those memories are back here in Fantasian, and they're just as evocative and beautiful as ever, really showcasing the breadth and depth of each character's backstories and motivations, and I loved deep diving into the memories. They're gorgeous. So far, everything that I've covered has been relatively great, but there is definitely something that is dragging this game down, and I do need to bring it up, and that is the controls. As we all know, this is a port of an Apple Arcade game, and those used touch screen controls. And while those controls do still work perfectly fine in battling, it's really the exploration where this gets pretty annoying. You see, as you traverse each diorama, the camera angle will abruptly change, and along with it, your controls will change just as abruptly. So many times you'll be holding like up, and then the camera's going to change, and you'll start like heading right or something instead of going up. It's pretty constantly happening, and it's pretty annoying, and it can only really be rectified by lifting up your finger off the control stick for just a moment and kind of like resetting it, and then continuing on your way until it switches camera angles again, so you have to keep on doing it. It's not a huge deal breaker or anything like that for me, but it was enough that it happened all the time to be annoyed by it and to bring it up here. Other than that though, I really did have a great time with Fantasian New Dimension, which is available right now for the Nintendo Switch, PS4, PS5, Xbox, and PC. And if you'd like to check it out for yourself and buy it, please use the links below as it does help me out a ton. And now, I do want to hear from you. How do you feel about Fantasian New Dimension, and did you play it back on the Apple Arcade? And are you going to be playing it now? Let's all talk and chat about it in the comments. And if you do like this video, here's another video that I really do think that you're going to enjoy. So please be sure to check that one out. And if you like this, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, have a good day.